Alright everyone, what's up? It's your boy K Natsuki here, and today we have a brand new What If video. For you guys. I have a brand new spanking hot What If video for you guys. As today, new What If, part 1. This is what if female Deku was, well, per se, a goddess of the moon. However, in order to sheath some things a bit, I've decided to name the what if Deku was an astral being instead. Now, this is what Deku looks like as a little girl. And yes, this is a female Deku what if. Do not hate on me in the comments or you die. Okay? Weird. Sorry about that. Anyways, let's get into this what if video. Now, what do I mean by astral being? Well, allow me to explain. When Deku was born, she would have been born on a planet that would have basically, it would be like Earth, except about a couple million years past where Earth was. As they would not have quirks, but they would actually be able to use magic itself. However, with power comes very greedy, power-hungry bad guys. As Sonic once said, with great power comes great power-hungry bad guys. And Lunala's power was the greatest of them all. Her ability was, at first, just a simple ability. It was called astral warp. She could command the fabric of space itself to travel to other worlds. However, she had no idea how to use it. As one day we see her being chased by men in strange robes that look like, well, sorcerer's robes. As the men then, suddenly elements begin to form around the men, as they're now in golem armor. As there's about 10 men in a rock golem armor, 10 other men in a ice golem armor, 10 other men in a fire golem armor, and 10 other men in a iron golem armor. As these 10 people are chasing after a girl known as Lunala. Well, Lunala Izumi Midoriya would be her full name. As they would begin, sorcerers would begin chasing after her, as they would say, come out quietly and we won't kill you. As she would not speak. Now y'all are wondering why are they chasing her? Well, as I explained, she has an astral warp ability. Basically meaning she can go to anywhere in the universe. Now what these sorcerers are trying to do is take her ability so they can basically go from from planet to planet, world to world, and take over the entire universe. However, Lunala is very adept at hiding. Oh, one other thing you guys might not like about this what if you the ships had been decided by, well, something called the opposite day rule. If you did not see in my comments, I posted on both of the things, the one with the least amount of votes. It's opposite day. The one with the least amount of votes is the ship. And and the first one, there were 2 zeros. Next, I put I'm Solgaleo, I'm female Solgaleo, or female Necrozma. So and female Necrozma got 0, and got 20, while Solgaleo got 80. So, the ship is female Necrozma. But anyways, back to the what if. As Lunala would be hiding in trees, up in tree branches. As suddenly they begin burning down the trees looking for her. As she basically runs to survive another day, and in the morning, pretty much, it's like an average, normal day. She stays in her house with her parents, it gets acknowledged by her family, and is basically known as the town beauty. However, little does she know that there are people watching in her live out her normal day. These people, of course, would be the bad sorcerers, which were attacking her last night, as when nighttime came, they would have burned the whole village down searching for her. They would even publicly execute people that wouldn't tell them where Lunala was. As Lunala would begin running out of her hometown, and, well, she would eventually be run up to a cliff, to a giant cliff-like edge, as the 40 sorcerers, basically like the 40 thieves from, basically like the 40 thieves, except basically imagine the 40 thieves as demonic sorcerers. So yeah, just as all the 40 sorcerers were basically surrounding her, Lunala would have only one option: to jump. As she would jump off of the cliff, and, well, she would be falling. However, halfway down, she would begin glowing. As then, right from where she was, a beam of energy would just rise up and zoom away. Now, little did these sorcerers know that Lunala's village was known as the, well, chain, and was basically known as the Chains of Peace. As now, the reason for this odd title is quite literally, her village and her people and her were the only thing keeping the planet from, well, collapsing in on itself. As this beam of light would basically be her traveling off the world, as suddenly the planet would begin to crack and crumble, as then it would collapse in on itself. As Lunala would, still being a child and having no idea how her ability works, she would be she'd be flying through space, as she would eventually reach about about 89 billion light years away from her home world, as she would reach a planet called. She would reach a planet. This planet would have creatures called the dinosaurs living there, as she would, as she, not knowing how to land, would hit the planet's surface. As suddenly, as suddenly, the impact from her landing would do two things: uproot the ground around her, basically forming a ginormous orb of rock around her, and causing a catastrophic mass extinction all across the planet. As suddenly the giant orb of rock that formed around her would basically be bounced off the Earth. However, it would stay in orbit. As this is how the moon and the dinosaurs basically appeared. As Lunala would be, well, floating on this, in this, giant surface of rock. As over time, something unexpected would happen. You see, Lunala's ability, the astral warp, it allows her to teleport from world to world, and allows her to travel from world to world, and galaxy to galaxy, and universe to universe, by tapping into something called astral magic. Astral magic is basically what space itself is made out of. As without astral magic, there would be nothing. Just a blank white void of nothingness that goes on endlessly. It has no bottom, no top, no left, no right, just an endless, ever-expanding void of nothingness. Anyways, back to the what if. As over time, she would not notice it, but she would still be drawing forth astral magic as her body would unconsciously begin and drawing forth astral magic to survive, until she would look, she would look like this. As when she awakens, about billions of years later, she is, well, about 65 million years later, she is confused. As when she awakens, the moon does not collapse in on itself, as her body would basically, and her normal body would have turned into a sort of form of stone, as astral magic would begin warping her soul outside of the ginormous rock-like orb which we call the moon. As Lunala would basically, she would awaken in this form as she would look around confused. As, well, as she would basically move her wings, to move her hands, as suddenly the moon would begin to glow, as water would begin to rise up out of the oceans, and, well, ice would begin to rise up as well. Wind, ice, and water would begin swirling up towards the moon, as suddenly, wha-bam! Everything just slapped back down, creating a bit of a worldwide tidal wave. This phenomenon would have been called the lunar flood, as everything would, and as all the water and ice and wind would have been going towards the moon. As well, we skip to about 4 years later, as Lunala has discovered an ability she has, the ability to turn back into a sort of humanoid state. As since all the millions of years have passed, she now looks like this, as she can summon a golden bow, and basically can summon infinite arrows, just out of nothingness. These are called spatial arrows. Pretty much what they do is create ginormous when they are fired, they turn to ginormous beams of light and basically destroy everything that's near. Or, well, that with I'm with the sun deity, which I'm going to get into, which will not be in this series. The attacks would basically set everything ablaze. As for her, everything would become ice and water. Everything would basically have been covered with ice. And everything that her attack would hit would turn into ice. Her bow can also be straightened out and turn into a sort of golden glaive, as the glaive can thin itself into a golden bow staff. As Lunala, basically, she would be about 4 years old. As when she's on Earth at least until she's at the age of 12, she will look like in her normal form. In the form before she used her ability. As she would look like this. Yes. As she would basically just be wandering around. As she would hear a voice, or at least hear someone behind her. As she would look around and see a man. As this man would have a strange mask, and a strange yellow and red mask, and sort of brown hair, and a weird purple and green coat of some kind. As the man would look at her as, I must say, using blood from another person's quirk, he would have been able to create a device able to scan and power signatures of sorts. As the device would basically be detecting Lunala's power signature as it would go infinite. As the device would literally have an infinity symbol appear. As Overhaul would then say, "I'm gonna need you to come with me, little girl." as Lunala would then say, no, remembering, well, all the power-hungry bad guys that wanted her power. As she would then create a ginormous blade of galaxy ice. As you know how Lunala's wings look, and how basically Lunala's clothes look, see how they kind of look like they're made of stars. Imagine that type of pattern, except ice. As that is what galaxy ice is. As he would say, what the hell? As the ice would then turn into just hundreds of tiny, like almost atoms, like smaller than atoms sized stars. As they would then just dissipate away. As he would say, what in the... As he would begin chasing after her. As he'd say, little girl, I'm not gonna hurt you. As she would say, you're wrong, you're lying, you're gonna hurt me. You're gonna hurt me just like they tried to. Now Overhaul would be confused as he would say, what do you mean, little girl? As she would then say, hey, you're just like the bad guys from my home, trying to use my power to go to places and conquer them. As Overhaul would be confused and say, what exactly is your powers, our little girl? Earl, as she would, basically not thinking while running, would say her power, as she would say, my ability is to warp through world. My ability is command and space itself. I can warp to worlds. I can warp to other worlds, other galaxies, other universes even. Overhaul, of course, thinking this is very useful, would then say, come here, little girl, I'm not gonna hurt you. And then Overhaul basically would be running over to... he'd basically be running over to Lunala, as he'd say, little girl. As suddenly, and as Overhaul would be using his quirk, trying to grab her, as suddenly, well, something unexpected would happen. As his quirk would instantly stop, as he'd say, what the hell? Damn, don't tell me. As he would look behind himself and see, well, a adult with long black hair and a sort of chin stubble with a gray scarf on and red eyes, chasing after him, as he'd say, damn, Eraserhead. As he'd say, you got lucky this time, little girl, but next time I'll find you and take... And you, next time I'll find you. He would say, as he would laugh, and as he'd laugh and disappear. As Ala would say, what does he mean, little girl? As he'd say, hello, is anyone there? As she would then say, here. As he would look, as he would basically, now they'd be in the city, as he would look underneath a trash can lid and see a little girl, all shaking. As he would then say, are you okay, little girl? As she would then say, yeah? As he would then say, don't worry. I got you. Did that man do anything to you? As she then said, no. He tried to attack me. With an ability of his. As he'd then say, thank God you're okay. Hey, as he'd then say, my name is Shoto Aizawa, or the pro hero Eraserhead. What's your name, little girl? As he would then, Lunala would then say, Lunala Izumi Midoriya. As he would then say, do you know where your parents are? As she would then look down and say, bad guys came, burned down home, and killed everyone. As he'd then say, oh, I'm sorry for saying anything. As she'd then say, it's fine. As he'd say, so where you live? As she would then say, hold on. As she would grab Aizawa by the hand, as her body, a energy would begin warping around her body, and since she's holding Aizawa's hand, him as well. As suddenly the two would blast off like a silver or cyan beam of light. As Aizawa begins screaming, as he'd say, ah! As then, boom, they would be on a moon. And they would be on a sort of small moon-like exoplanet with breathable air. As he would say, what in the... As she would then say, that was my home. As she would point over to a whole bunch of, meteors and rocks and shards of stone that were just floating there in the darkness, as he'd say, that was your home? As she would then say, As she would then say, now we go back to your home. As she would grab Aizawa by the hand, and the two would blast off in a silver/cyan beam of light back down to Earth. As this time they would land they'd land on the roof of UA. And she would then say, uh-oh, sorry, I appear to have landed us on a tall spot. As Aizawa, with his eyes widened, would take a minute to breathe and comprehend everything that he just learned, as he would then say, so you're not from this world? As she would then say, nope. As he'd then say, question, how do you have that power? How do you have that ability? As she would then say, when I was born, my mom and dad, when I was born, I had ability. Mom and dad tried to protect me, along with family and village. However, big, mean sorcerers come and try to attack me. To take my power and try to use it to go to other worlds and conquer them. As he would then say, holy cow. As he would then think, if All For One somehow got this girl's power, he would be able to go through the entire array of universes. Hell, maybe even alternate universes of Earth. He'd be able to come back here with an armada of villainous quirk users, and even alternate versions of himself. And then he'd be able to rule all of everything. So this girl is a multiversal being, and is a multiversal problem. As he would then say, come with me, kid, as he would hold on to her hand, as they would basically walk in a door that was there for janitor purposes, as the two would basically walk down the stairs. As Aizawa would basically be in the presence of Principal Nezu and All Might and Endeavor and Hawks and all of those others, including Midnight, Mountain Lady, I'm pretty sure Death Arms, Bastionist, I'm pretty sure his name's Night Eye, and others. As he would then say, Principal Nezu, we have a problem. A universal problem. A multiversal problem. As Principal Nezu with widen eyes and says, then says, Aizawa, there's no possible way. The multiverse has not even been proved to exist. As he then says, oh, I'm sure it exists. Because of this girl. As he then pulls, and as he then shows Lunala, as they then say, this girl, what do you mean? Is her quirk like to create portals to other universes or something? As he then says, that's the thing. She doesn't have a quirk at all. As he then says, as everyone hold on. As he then says, All Might, grab my hand. Nezu grab All Might's hand. Endeavor grab Nezu's hand. Midnight grab Endeavor's hand. Mountain Lady grab Midnight's hand. And so on and so forth. As they all begin creating a ginormous line of holding hands. As he then say, okay, now go back to the place we just were and show me your home. And show me your home again. And where you used to live. As she would then say, okay. As she would begin glowing with a cyan energy. And then kaboom! They would begin a silver/cyan beam of energy would leave the Earth. As in a matter of mere instance, it would appear back on the small moon-like exoplanet with breathable air. As they would say, where the hell are we? As she would then say, that is my planet, and that is my home, or that was my home. As she then points at the ginormous array of meteors, asteroids, and dust, and other sorts of things. As they then look, and as everyone has widened eyes, as they then say, what happened to it? As she then said, bad guys come and attack me and my family. Me and my family and our home keep planet together. I leave home and it go kaboom. because big, scary bad guys want power to take over other places. As they then say, can you please bring us, as Nezu then says, can you please bring us back to our home, miss? Ash then says, my name is Lunala Izumi Midoriya. As then says, Miss Midoriya. As she then says, okay. Everyone begins holding hands, and kaboom, they're blasted back to Earth. As they then say, how long have you been on Earth? As she then says, only 4 years. I've been alive far longer. As they are confused, and she says, as when I first got here was many years ago. Oh, there was big creatures. Earths with teeth and long necks and scales. Tails and tails and ginormous feet. Some had 2 feet, some had 4 feet. And they had brains the size of peanuts. Anyways, when I came here, however, ground went up. Then, and the whole planet shook. Creatures died. Suddenly, all the rocks and all the rocks and trees and everything else went up and surrounded around me. And then I was pushed up. I just woke up 4 years ago and made myself new, and, well, I woke up like this. As she then goes into this form. As she then says, as it's very strange. And as she then says, anyways, you haven't a home I can live in. As she would turn back into her small human form, as Nezu would look at her with ginormous, widened eyes, as he'd then think, maybe, just maybe, we could raise her here to be a great hero. As she would then say, a hero? What's a hero? As they then explain what heroes were. As her eyes would then sparkle, as they quite literally would look like galaxies, and would look like entire universes. As she would then say, that sounds so cool. I want to be a hero. As they would then say, sure. As well, they would basically begin traveling. Well, no. As we do a time skip of a couple of years. Now, she does not know Bakugo or anything like that. However, she does know Endeavor's son, Todoroki, along with Shinzo. Cause I'm gonna say Shinzo is female Mike and Izawa's son. Okay? As her dad is basically Aizawa. As now she looks like this. As he then says, Lunala, wake up, you're gonna be late for the entrance exam. As suddenly a beam of light flashes down the stairs and rolls and basically appears in the kitchen. As we see a girl who looks like this, about 14 years old, as she then says, Are you serious, Daddy? Why don't you wake me up? And why didn't you wake me up earlier? As they then say, sorry, but you're gonna be late. As she then says, okay, goodbye. As she then begins glowing. Well, no. As she then turns into this form and, well, flies away. As she basically reaches the entrance exam area. Fun fact, this part will probably be over an hour. Which means you guys are very lucky today. As basically they would be on Earth. And basically she would be at the entrance exam, as she would see female Mike, as she would basically pass the written exam part. As well, while she was doing the written exam, we go to a woman. As this woman, basically, she's wearing armor that looks like this. As she's in a ginormous crystal, like black crystal ship called the Necrosum. And called the Hold on. As well, this woman is basically on a sort of giant ship called the Necromaniac. As it is basically made of it's like a giant black crystallized ship. As it's very high-tech on the inside, and, well, there's only 2 people aboard it. One of which is this lady, and another is this woman, and another is, hold on, as the second person on the ship, on this giant black ship, is a woman who looks like this, with this type of black armor on, or a black crystallized dress. As, yes, this is female Solgaleo, the sun goddess. As the woman then says, just a little longer, come on, as she's tapping her fingers, bored as all hell. As Solgaleo basically walks up to the woman and says, what is wrong, Necrozma? And what is wrong, Necrozma? Is there a problem? And she then says, we've been searching for ever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever, and we still have not found her yet. As Necrozma would then say, don't worry, her signature activated 14 years ago. And her signature activated about 65 billion years ago. 65 million years ago. But do not worry. As the woman would then say, as Necrozma would then say, I guess, just, ugh. Where in existence could she be? I know that she has the same power as us, the ability to, well, warp, to basically teleport or go to any place in existence, even alternate universes and alternate timelines. So just, ugh, she would say. As She then says, keep your eye on the monitor, okay? Okay, Solgaleo? As the woman, now addressed as Solgaleo, would then say, of course, Necrozma, anything for you. As she would basically begin looking at I should basically be looking at the monitor as we go back to Deku. Deku looks like this as she's just finished the written part and succeeded the entire part succeeded the entire, test, as one of her trainers is quite literally Nezu. And one of the people who trains her, or in intelligence, is Nezu. So yeah, be extremely smart. As then it's the physical part. As before, female present Mike could even say 3. I could even think of saying the word 3. Lunala would have dashed out. As well. Basically, she would have dashed out and would begin firing some arrows. And would begin firing arrows, which she would call twilight arrows, and which she would call lunar arrows at the robots. She would begin racking up points like hell and like crazy, and then, she would then pretty much fire back she basically would then think, okay, I have too many points, I'll just wait for everyone else to get some. And then, boom, 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 boom. She then hears and sees the 0 pointer. However, this 0 pointer is, no, it's the same, as it's just the regular 0 pointer. It's about to squash Uraraka like normal. Uraraka, this time, Uraraka still waiting for someone to rescue her, knowing that she can obviously lift up the rubble. But she's faking being in danger right now. As then, we see a beam. A beam of pure energy would basically come from the moon, and would form into a pure cyan, white, and silver, or glowing arrow with a aura around it. As suddenly the bow would transform into a golden cannon that would attach to her arm, as the arrow would turn into a pure beam of divine light. As she would then say, Twilight Cannon, and in Barrage. As the cannon would then fire a blast of a combination of wind, ice, and freezing cold water, except combined with about so much coldness that it would actually be as hot as the sun, and that it would actually burn as much as the sun, and would burn as much as fire. as she would basically fire one blast at the robot, as the robot would then be covered in ice, its circuits would be covered in water, and it would not be able to move because the wind would be constricting it from moving. As she would then say, "And now for the final attack." As she would basically then transform into this form, as she would raise her wings up along with her hands, as suddenly a giant pure orb of energy that was both white, and that was white, cyan, silver, and purple and gold would form above her. As she would then say, "Hey," and as she would then say, "Hey, astral cataclysm." As suddenly she would throw the orb, as it would then turn into 10 giant purple and gold arrows. Those arrows would split into 10 more, and the same thing goes on for 10 times, each of them being the same size, as she would basically begin whistling, yes! Like Yondu. Like, you know how Yondu from Guardians of the Galaxy whistles and the arrows do what he wants? Basically, there'd be about, what's 10 times 10? I guess 1,000 arrows. No. What's... okay. Each of the 10 arrows then split. One arrow then splits into 10 arrows, and then one of those. Okay, basically, there'd be a buttload of arrows, as they'd all be flying around the 0-pointer, as then they would all turn into purple and gold bolts of energy, as she would then say, "Final strike." And as she would then say, "Astral cataclysm, final strike." As they would all hit the 0-pointer in a beam of beautiful purple and gold, silver, white, and cyan energy, and of light, would basically blast off of the planet Earth, as this would be a ginormous power signature. As we go back to the two women, as the woman known as Solgaleo is still watching the monitor, as then there's a ginormous boost on the monitor, as she then says, as Necrozma, look! As she points at the monitor, and they see a ginormous beam of divine energy, and a ginormous signature of divine energy. As Necrozma, and as the woman addressed as Necrozma, in her armor then says, "Yes, finally." Alright, Solgaleo, activate the full thrusters, and prep the cannons just in case the planet she's on does not want to compel with our orders. As she then says, and as Solgaleo then says, "Yes, Necrozma." As then, well, the ginormous ships, and as the Necromaniacs' engines begin firing up, as she then says, "Next stop, planet Earth." And as that is where I'm ending this part off. Hope y'all enjoyed part 1 of what if female Deku was an astral being. Hope y'all enjoyed, and 10 likes, I'll make a part 2 today. Goodbye.